Hello everybody, a colleague of mine asked me to make a video about these four topics as to how they're different. So I'm happy to oblige. If you like my content, please like and subscribe. I really appreciate that because that helps me with YouTube's algorithm. And here we go. So the question is, there is this GKE cluster, normal cluster, then there is Autopilot, then there is Cloud Run, and there is Cloud Functions. What are the difference between all these things? They can be very confusing. So let's first start with the very simplest one. The normal GKE cluster is basically you have virtual machines that make up a Kubernetes cluster. You can have these things you can have a Kubernetes cluster on-prem on a data center, or on AWS, or on Google Cloud, or Azure, whatever. But these are normal clusters. They have the main node, the control nodes, and then their worker nodes. For example, and GKE is basically named for the Kubernetes service from Google Cloud. The equivalent name from AWS would be EKS. Anyway, so if I make a normal Kubernetes cluster in GKE, i.e. Google Cloud, I can just choose what kind of nodes I need for my cluster. I can choose small, medium, large, whatever. And if I choose one small node, I only pay 3 cents an hour as of today. Today is March, 2023. So that's you are choosing the nodes, based on whatever your needs are. Autopilot is you don't get to choose your nodes. You say, Google, give me a cluster, give me access to that, and that's it. Based on your workload, Google will figure out what kind of nodes you need and how many of them and what size. That's up to them, right? Maybe at one point you only need one small node. Maybe at a point you need 20 large nodes. Depending on your node, Google will manage all that. In the normal case, you manage your nodes. In this case, it's still a cluster. You still put pods and services and deployments on them, but the number of and size of the worker nodes are totally on Google to manage and live. So that's still a cluster. Cloud Run, however, what if you don't want to manage clusters at all? You have no desire to do so. All you want, you already have your Docker images. You just want to run those images as containers on Google's cloud, and you don't want to worry about anything about the cluster at all. Then that's Cloud Run. For example, let's say that you make a container that's a web server, right? You put that container on Google Run and say, okay, run that container. And if I hit this, and Google makes a service out of it and gives you an endpoint. You hit the service. If you hit the service a million times, depending on load, it will figure out what to do behind the scene, right? You won't even have access to the cluster. It's just like you're given a place to put your image, and it will run the containers from 1 to 50 million, depending on the load, and it will scale up and down. All right. The last one is Cloud Functions, which is kind of a different beast altogether. This is not a Kubernetes thing. This is more of a program thing. You can write your code in almost any platform these days: Node.js, Python, Golang, whatever. You have your code that works, right? What if you don't even want to make a cluster container? Not even a container. Forget about cluster. Don't even want to make a container. You just say, this is my code. Go run it, and give me an endpoint, and give me either endpoint or some kind of webhook or some other reason for that function to run. And that's a whole different conversation as to what the triggers are. But you have your code that runs on the cloud. You don't even create a Docker image out of it. You just put the code on there. That's what Cloud Functions is. This is equivalent to AWS Lambda service, right? So those are different levels of serverless, basically. Normal GKE cluster, you define the nodes. Autopilot, Google defines the nodes. Cloud Run, no nodes involved at all. That's Google's business. You just run the container image. And function, you just run the code. You don't even make a image out of it. All right. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please like and subscribe. That I would really appreciate that, and that would help me with YouTube's algorithm. And I will see you in the next video.